Hello there, everybody, and welcome to a little bit more of Lambert Talks About What Tinto Talks is talking about. It's a great name, don't worry about it. Workshop it. Anyway, since last week, there's been quite a lot of discussion going on in the Tinto Talks subforum. Quite a lot of things going on about, mana, do we want pop system? Because basically everyone, unless they're trolling, thinks it is going to be EU5. There's a few people saying, it's clearly East versus West, or Imperator 2, or March of the Eagles 2, or whatever. But basically everyone knows it's EU5, and there is a lot of conversation about it, and it's very interesting. You should check out the forum and agree with me on all the things that I write. It's great. Anyway, that's not the point of today's video. The point of today's video is there is another talky thingy. At the end of the last one, they said we're going to talk about maps, and here we are talking about maps. Also, apologies if my voice sounds a bit croaky. I am a little bit sick. Apologies for that. Anyway, let's have a look at what Johan is talking about. Welcome to the second week of Tinto Talks, where you talk about the design of the new top secret game, which they will refer to as Project Caesar. Today they'll delve into everyone's favorite topic, maps. We are map game nerds. It is what it is. We all like maps. Let's begin with the projection we chose for the game. In the past, we've used Mercator or Miller projection, which has some severe drawbacks, as you're all aware of. As we're restricted to a cylindrical map, we had to pick the least bad of them, which is why we went with the Gaull stereographic projection. Well, for starters, if this is what we're getting here, instantly I can tell that New York is no longer on the same latitude as London. That's very good. That's very interesting, and it's very good. I've not heard of Gaull stereographic, but I don't really see a problem with that being a thing. Sure. Why is that one good? It keeps the areas we care most about, those in the middle latitudes, bigger without making the poles ridiculously oversized or the equator too undersized. It also has a reasonable conformal shape, meaning that the shape of the continent stays the closest to the real areas and angles without sacrificing the recognizable shape of them. Perfectly reasonable to me, yeah. I didn't really see what was like the big problem with these. I mean, I guess, Greenland shouldn't be as big, but for a map game, it's not really a big issue. I will say, though, there is a little bit of disappointment in me that they're going with the cylindrical style again, because I don't actually think that's necessary. This here is Project Alice, one of the two main revival, I guess you could say, projects for Victoria 2. Trying to recreate Victoria 2 from the ground up, and this is one of them. And as you can see, they're using a globe, and it works. Like, it works. So, I feel like there was a potential here to have a globe again in EU5, because I mean, when you zoom in close enough to the globe, you're just looking like a regular map, right? It just works. So I'm a little bit disappointed that they're not going with the globe, but if we're going with cylinders, I mean, I can't be too disappointed because I like my EU4 cylinder anyway. But anyway, let's move on. In most of our games in the past, we used the word of province for the smallest piece of clay on the map. However, with the map design we're going for in this game, it does not thematically fit as the map is more granular, and what people associate with real-world province would not fit. So we went for terminology we used in the code since the first game we made in the old Europa engine, which was location. Alright. Now, the smallest subdivision is referred to as a location, while a group of locations is a province, and a group of provinces is an area, and a group of areas is called a region, group of regions is a subcontinent, group of subcontinents called continent. Fair enough. If we take the home of Paradox Interactive, it's located in our location, Stockholm, which is in the province of Uppland, which is in the Svealand area, which is in the Scandinavia region, which is in part of the Western Europe subcontinent, which is in part of the Europe continent. Okay, all right. I'm reasonably okay with this. It's a lot. It's very granular. Like this is on a level of like imperator granularity. The fact they're calling it location is kind of interesting, because didn't Imperator have the smallest group of land was called not settlements, but like it was called like area and then province, and it was a bit weird that way. But no, honestly, as long as they maybe try and keep this same terminology going forward, I've got no problem with that. The map does look nice, though. I do quite like that. And I do have more to say about the map, but we'll go back to that when we get to the end of this. Now, you may wonder, why did we go with such granularity on a map like this? Well, it's an entirely gameplay-driven, from making it deep, engaging gameplay peacetime possible, better controlling the pacing of the game, and also to allow for more fun military campaigns. Try to make the provinces as historical as possible when it comes to borders, while trying to keep the size of the locations consistent, with more or less regular progression from the smallest to the biggest, with our rule of thumb is that a location shouldn't have more than 3 times the number of pixels compared to a neighboring one. So is the entire globe divided into lots of tiny locations? No, there are 4 types of locations, and for those we have taken heavy inspiration from the maps of Imperator, yay, and Victoria 3. Look, I don't really have a problem with Victoria 3's map, other than the fact that I can't move my little toy soldiers around on it. So I quite like the Victoria 3 map. Imperator's is still the best one that they've made. The first type of location is of the more uniform size. For a land location, this would be the normal location that can be settled, and for a sea location, be a coastal sea location, or any location adjacent to a coastal sea location. The amount of times I'm going to be saying location in this video, the word is going to lose all meaning. I'm curious. I'm just gonna Control F for location. 18 times. It's 18 times. Okay. All right. Okay. Second type is the sea current location, which connects coastal areas with each other, allowing for travel faster in one direction. You know what? I like this. I like this a lot. Right. This is the thing that I was going to talk about as well. If you're using, sea travel is not like, the ocean isn't just like a big bathtub where your little toy boat can go in any part of the bathtub. There are very specific routes, especially during these times, that ships sailed, alright? They don't all just go willy-nilly all over the place. Like, there are very distinct, it's not a pathway, there's a coastway, a seaway, sea lane, so you know what I'm talking about. But I do like this idea. I don't know whether I would be wanting my boats to be able to enter these large areas or not. I'm not sure. But it does make naval combat, in my imagination, if naval combat is the same as it is in EU4, having these lanes makes finding your enemy's navy a little bit more predictable, which I am kind of in favor of, actually. So, yeah, okay. I like the idea of it. The third is what we call an impassable wasteland, which can be used to describe parts of the Sahara, Greenland, or other places where hardly any people live even today. You always use these types for the majority of the water covering the oceans. Okay, so these are in fact impassable. Fair enough. Finally, we have what we call passages. These are land connections that cannot be settled by anyone, but still be traversed by an army with some insanely heavy attrition, or allow trade to pass through. Think of the passages across the Saharan desert. I'm also thinking about the passages in Imperator. For example, there are a couple that are just south of the Macedonian capital of Pella, where they are uncolonizable, untakeable, but you can move an army through them. There's also one at the Syrian gates, for example, and they're kind of all over the place. But those are the ones that are sticking in my head as like the ones I am most familiar with, and they're fine. There's no problem with those being existent. And just to illustrate the ones that I mean these ones here with the little arrows on them. You can't build anything there. You can't colonize it. It's only colored in because I own everything around it. But those are the kinds of passages that I believe are being talked about here. So, alrighty then. Speaking of desert, in a lot of our games we define each province as having a single terrain value, like forest, tundra, or desert. This is rather limiting because eventually you end up with a huge list of complex things like Arctic forested hill or desert mountain. What we've done in Project Caesar is to take a deep look at how we did this in Victoria 2, where we had split terrain in topography and vegetation and take it further. Now we have 3 different values in each location. Their climate, Arctic, arid, continental, topography, flatland, hills, mountains, and vegetation, forest, woods, farmlands. So you can have a flatland farmland, or mountain farmland, or a hill farmland. I like it, I like it. Now, what the actual gameplay impact of these is, we'll talk about much later. Balls. Next we'll be talking about something that could be controversial. Is it the military? Because, no, I don't think... I mean, it could be. It definitely could be. But, you know, if he says, yes, there will be little men on the map, I guess that would be controversial in a sense of there are, in fact, people who like Victoria 3, which, I mean, it's surprising and completely mind-blowing and bonkers that anyone would like that, but there are people who would find that statement of, you know, little men on map being good is controversial, you know. Anyway, let's have a look at this big-ass map. And we can definitely see the areas that are wasteland, right? You can see them instantly, immediately. Can I get a bigger image of this, actually? I would like to see it bigger. Not really, but I can zoom in. It's just a little blurry. But that's a lot. But, like, let me see if I can drag it over a bit. It looks like a lot of little wastelands. Like, lots and lots and lots and lots of little wastelands. Instead of there being just big, giant ones. You got some in Scotland as well. Lots in the Alps. Auvergne Mountain, the Pyrenees. Lots in, obviously, the Carpathians, but there are passages through it. More so than in EU4. Some in Greece. Okay, alright. Deserts, of course. Large periods of wasteland. Honestly, there's wasteland going quite far south. Yeah, so this is very interesting. That is a lot of the world that is basically you can't play in this playground, right? It would very much increase the tactical strategy elements of warfare, you know, planning around, you know, not being able to go in most of these places, whereas in EU4, there's just really large provinces, especially in Arabia, where you can just march through. Obviously, you got a large wasteland in Arabia, or 2, in fact, there's one one more in the north. But other than that, there's like, you're not really that restricted, but it seems like there is a lot more in the way of restrictions here, and I am in favor of that. I do like that a lot. I could even be happier with even more. I wonder if there will be navigable rivers, or even if not navigable, right? I'm not a massive fan of them being, you know, navigable by boats, but I want them to be path blocking, right? I want them to stop my armies from being able to move. Because, like, one thing I very much enjoyed when playing Imperator is having the Danube River be my northern border while playing as Macedon. And in that sort of situation, I don't need the boats to go sailing up the river, but having just a couple or 3, you know, crossing points for armies made the Danube River feel like an imposing geological, like, element to the game that you just don't get in EU4. You can cross it. Sure, you might suffer a -1 penalty if you were attacking across the river, but that's kind of it. And that's not really good enough, and it does not do the river justice. And I could see this play out in so many different areas, right? You've got the Seine, the Loire, the Rhine, the Elbe. All of these rivers are very important waterways that really should be blocking the flow of, not blocking the flow, but blocking the traversal of armies. So I'd very much be in favor of, what would you even call them? Not navigable rivers, because obviously I don't want them navigable. Would you call them hampering river? No, that's a terrible word. Someone needs to coin a word for it. But yeah, Let's have a look here as well. There are rivers here. I don't know the specific river that flows through Stockholm, but I'm assuming there is a river going this way, right? Going into this lake and coming out of it. And it doesn't look like there is any indication of that on the map, which I do think is a little bit of a negative. Like, Nyköping right here, there's definitely... This bay is fed by a river, and that might be this. But that's not visible. And I think it kind of needs to be. So maybe that could be changed. What I will say, on the aesthetic front, I do quite like the look of this map mode that they've got going on, except these hashed lines on the coastline, not a fan. Not a fan at all. I hope this goes away, because that doesn't look good to me. And it's something that I noticed on the previous dev diary as well. Was it on the previous dev diary? Where did I notice hashed lines on a map? I remember seeing that somewhere, and it wasn't in some early access that I shouldn't have had access to. Where have I seen hashed lines on a map? Because I remember seeing that and not liking it, but I don't remember what it was from. Maybe it was Gilded Destiny, actually. Could have been. Either way. Is this a large image that we can look at as well? It's quite nice. It's quite a nice image. There we go. A little bit more zoomed in on the Japan region with their various maneuverment blocking areas. I would have expected a little bit more. I mean, you can't really see it, but I would have expected a little bit more maneuver blocking in like Brunei, Sumatra, that kind of area, Jakarta. I can't remember what these islands are called, but you know what I'm talking about. You know, Indonesia. I would have expected a little bit more than what I can see, but especially in this time period. But it is what it is. But yeah, goal stereographic projection. Just from looking at this, I can see it working out fine. And you can just see the lanes as well on the map, which they look good. They don't look bad. Like, I could definitely see these being very useful ways to really focus naval combat, especially. But hey, maybe even naval trade, something that I'm hoping we get more of is a decent trade system. But yeah, from what I can tell, this looks really nice. I'm looking forward to it. And yay, maps be good. Location being the smallest unit, happy with that. And yeah, I've got nothing else to say. I think everything looks good here, other than these hash lines. So I would like to know what you guys think in the comment section below. What do you think about what Tinto Talks is talking about? Because I think it looks... I'm excited. Let me know in the comment section below, and I will see you next week for another another episode of Lambert Talks about what Tinto Talks is talking about. Bye-bye.